Hey everybody, we're going to get started any moment now with our webinar today. I'm so excited to have you all here. I am Laura Stewart, the Director of Online Channel Events for SaaSMAX, and we're going to get started in just a moment. We're seeing everybody joining in as I've opened the webinar to people to join in. So any second now, we'll be starting. If you have any problems or questions, please put them in the question or chat pane and I'll be happy to help you out. Okay, so let's get started, everyone. My name, if you missed it a moment ago, is Laura Stewart. I am the Director of Online Channel Events for SaaSMAX. I'm excited to be here with you all today. I am a former MSP myself, and it was one of the greatest times of my life. And with everything going on in the world today, I know that all of my friends and the vendors in the channel that are my friends, this is some challenging times for you right now. And we all have to be in this together to help us and help everybody that needs our help, because technology is considered an essential service, especially right now. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can assist inside your channel partner programs. We've got 3 amazing solution providers, MSPs, MSSPs on the call with us today on the webinar that are going to be sharing what makes a channel relationship tick. So let's get started with some housekeeping. Any questions that you have, please type them in the question pane and I will be moderating them, and we will be asking your questions during and after the main part of the webinar has been done. And Clint Gatewood is the host for the webinar. I'm just here. I'm the host with the most in the background. And Clint Gatewood is the SaaSMAX channel chief. So Clint, why don't you pop on, and I'm going to turn the controls over to you so you can introduce our 3 panelists.
Okay, so hey everybody, I'm Clint Gatewood. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing the slides at the moment. So I don't know if you have. There we go. So there I am. So hi everybody, I'm Clint Gatewood with SaaSMAX. I'm glad everyone can make. I'm a channel chief here. We have some really good. We're gonna go really fast. As Laura said, please put your questions in. We're going to do a question and answer at the end, or if it's really pertinent to the point that that we're talking to at that point, she'll interject and put those in. So it'd be great. We have a couple polls that'll be coming up, so please take those and pay attention to those. So we'll be moving very, very quickly here, and off we go to the next, and we'll start to introduce the rest of our attendees and to our guests here. So our guests today is Rick Francart and Tammie Newman and Pat Grillo, and all of them I've worked with in the past. I know all of them, and it's really good to be connecting with them. So Rick, if you want to start bringing up your video, you're the one on the left, so we'll start with Rick Francart, CEO and founder of 5 Opportunities. You want to introduce yourself a little bit, Rick?
Yeah, again, Rick Francart with 5 Opportunities. I've been part of this industry for a long time, and had the chance of being on both sides as far as the vendors and the resellers and partners and MSPs and all those kind of things over the years. So yeah, I have a lot of stories and a lot of thoughts and a lot of experiences dealing in this whole industry over the years, and I'm excited to be here today.
Great, fantastic. It was great to have you here again and working with you. And I'd also like to now introduce Tammie Newman, president and founder of Cyber5 LLC. I've also known Tammie for a long time and had done work with her husband as well, Troy, with their MSP. And so it's a real relationship-based business, and we're going to talk a bit about that today as well. But it's about relationships that if you do really well at what you do, you're going to enjoy the fruits of those labors well into the future. And introducing Tammie. Tammie.
Hi, thanks. I'm Tammie Newman, and I'm the president of Cyber5, and Cyber5 is an MSSP. We have a rather unique position as both a vendor and a provider, because we do offer managed cybersecurity services to MSPs, as well as run managed cybersecurity directly to clients. And then I have some history running an MSP with my husband, as you mentioned, Troy, running Merger Tree Solutions, which is an MSP company.
Great, thank you. And now we have Pat Grillo, CEO and founder of Atrion Communications Resources. And I've known Pat a very, very long time. Pat, I'm not sure we actually ever really did business together before. We may have, but I've known Pat a long time, and I've seen him in the industry. So Pat, do you want to introduce yourself and your company?
Sure, Pat Grillo. Was that a feedback?
No, that's you, and that's probably something outside. Someone's beeping a horn. So if that's what you
Okay.
heard, it was on my side.
Every time I talk, made a noise, I'm going, what am I doing
Hey,
here?
it's the new norm, Pat, where everyone's working from home. We got all these distractions outside. We got to learn to just say, I'm going to ignore these things and just get my work done.
Oh, you're just trying to mess me up. That's it.
That's
Anyway,
right.
I'm the founder and CEO of Atrion in New Jersey. And we work around the whole New York metropolitan area. We've been in business since 1985, trying to help customers solve their problems.
Well, you've been doing a pretty good job of it. You've been around since 1985. So I don't know if you're trying. I think you're probably doing so on that. So great. So this is our panel today. We've all known each other. Like I said, it's a very relationship-based business, and I'm going to kind of kick right into some questions. So as you have questions yourselves, or you want to hear more from someone about a particular topic that they brought up, please do. But put your questions in. This is your time, your moment. As channel professionals, to really hear from the audiences that you're trying to reach out to, that you're trying to recruit, that you're trying to have sell your product, and to really, we're not going to hold back here. If you have a question, ask it. Don't be afraid of the answers, but really come out and say, these are the things that we like, these are the things that we don't like, and so answer your questions. And we're going to start really out a little bit about, as we alluded to here, we're all working from home. We're all under lockdown. We're all having fun with family. So in the meantime, we're trying to get work done. And I'd like to just maybe start out with Tammie. I'll have you answer this first and move on to Pat and Rick. How on these critical moments are your vendors supporting you? What are you seeing out there in helping address the concerns and the needs of your client base?
Well, for MSPs and for MSSPs, uniquely, the majority of our vendors are positioned well to work remotely, right? So I have found that our vendors have reached out to us really very quickly. The vast majority of them reached out to us really very quickly to let us know that services would continue, to let us know what measures they were taking to protect their own team so that their team would still remain available week after week in order to continue providing services. Because of course, we can't continue to provide our services seamlessly if our partners can't continue to provide theirs. So that was very reassuring. And then we did the same thing in the other direction, was reached out to our clients and let them know we're still in business, everything's still running, all of your monitoring is still going on, all of the services that we provide are still taking place. So the vendors have done a good job of that, almost exclusively.
Excellent, excellent. Pat?
Yeah, I'm kind of ditto to what Tammie just said. Most of our vendors have reached out to us, given us feedback of what they're doing, let us know they're still open and so on. Some have taken an extra step of making a phone call and saying, is there anything we can do for you? One of them is one of our distribution partners, which has been phenomenal. And they made a point of calling up, what can we do? Do we need to work on terms with you? Do we need to do anything? We know customers are going to be paying slower and things like that. So that was really amazing. I was really happy to have that phone call. And we're doing the same thing. We sent out, just like Tammie, we're open, here's what we're doing. Please call us. We're working remotely, and pretty much everybody's been working remotely in our company, other than the small core of people that are in the office. And so it wasn't a big change that way for us.
And Rick?
Yeah, I think I'd obviously ditto everybody else's input, that we're seeing a lot of just information and emails and correspondence that way to let everybody know that they're out there. I think some of the things from my approach, I'm on the digital transformation side and the data side, and dealing with data and these newer products that are emerging from the data side. So I think even more so this conversation is good for them, because they're experiencing this, it's a different market and a different way they need to position it, because it's not traditional. It's really from a business perspective. So it's, we'll see how it rolls through and how it shakes out.
Good, excellent. Fantastic. So that's all good news. So there's always good news whenever we have some other issues going on in the world, and that's great. So, but let's move on then, because it looks like that part of the relationships are working really well. And as we've had conversations leading up to this, it's, some people talk about the reseller partner relationships being a two-way street. I always like to think of it, it's a two-way street going in the same direction. You're driving in the same car. You got to go in the same direction to really make things work. So in those lines, what I would like to start out with on the relationship side, and we can go to Pat first for this, but what are some of the best ways that you've seen in best venues or ways that people are reaching out to you to start a relationship with you? And along the same time, what's concerning about how they're reaching out to you? What are the disconnects that just absolutely make you hang up that phone and say, thank you very much, not going to talk to you again? So Pat, would you like to start out on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and you know, the worst thing they're going to do is call up and give you the same spiel everybody else gives you. Hi, this is ABC company, and we've got this wonderful box, and it's better than everybody else's box that does the same thing. You know, and we basically stop it right there and say, well, tell you what, you send this wonderful box in. If we have time, we'll look at it and we'll test it. And if our technical people say, hey, this is really good, and it's not another Me Too box, then we'll take a look at your channel program and see if it makes sense, and we'll put them through their paces at that point. But the first thing they've got to do to get our attention is to get, if they got this whiz bang wonderful product, get in our people's hands. We'll test it. We'll give them a report and says, we tested your product. Here's how we found it worked out against our competitors. And if that gets there, like I say, then we sit down and take a look at the channel program. Not until.
Sure. And like I said, this is a conversation. So Tammie, Rick, jump in. We were having a good conversation beforehand about this, so let's continue that. We did have a poll here on the channel partner program here that you know, are people, or do you have a partner-centric program, or you don't, or not quite sure what you mean. So it looks like everyone's pretty much on page with, hey, I got to be in line with my partners. But let's continue the conversation. So Tammie, Rick, want to jump in?
Yeah, I think, you know, the relationship is there, and in regards to the channel programs and being partner centric, I think you know, it's really important to keep that relationship and partnership.
Well, let's go back, Rick, to what we were talking with Pat, though. That was kind of interrupted me, and I paid a little more attention to that. But you know, on the whole the outreach as partners are reaching out to you, let's go back to that topic. And
okay. Yeah, I think, you know, I think they want us to, you know, we want them to understand what we do a little bit as a business. And I know we've talked that with Tammie and all in our conversations just prepping for this, but it's understanding what, you know, what we do as a business and try to align what they're providing to what we're doing as a business, just to make more sense for us, and taking that time to understand who we are and what we do, and not just basically call us up as just another end user customer and say, hey, yeah, how you doing? Can you sell our products? And do you have any opportunities today that you can, you know, push our way?
I agree with that. I would say that the best approach is not to cast a broad net, but to do a better job spearfishing, right? When we get a tremendous number of vendor calls and repeated calls from the same vendors that don't fit our business model, vendors for whom we really aren't a good client fit, that's frustrating, and it's time consuming, and it's resource consuming. And personally, I just don't like being rude, which means I'm either avoiding taking phone calls or I'm listening politely, only to wait for an opportunity to say, listen, I'm 100% behind you, and I wish you all the luck in the world, but we're not a client for you. So please take us off of your call list, which then usually does not actually happen. What I need is vendors to call me who are actually a fit for my organization and who actually have potential to grow with me, because not only are we really two cars in side-by-side lanes going in the same direction, what I need us to be is actively rowing in the same boat, right? Pulling in the same direction, moving both organizations forward concurrently. So when I get those broad net casts, right, that I know they're doing that same general call to probably 100 different cold calls of MSPs or MSSPs that day, that's not going to get anywhere with me unless they just get really lucky and happen to be a fit. I need them to have done their research ahead of time.
Yeah, they can't just call you up because you're an MSSP or an MSP and say, hey, we're a good fit with you because you're an MSP or an MSP. Or in Rick's piece, he's talking big data and taking it into these end clients and pieces, and he's not going to want to hear maybe that pitch that the both of you might want to have. And Rick, you were a little bit stronger about that earlier when you're talking about you get these young guys on the phone or young gals on the phone coming out of college. I mean, talk about that. I mean, that's like, we got senior people here. Pat, you've owned a company since 1985. Rick, you've been in business the same way. Tammie, you're probably in business since 2012. But so I know it's been longer than that. But on that particular piece, but you have a lot of companies, Rick, as you're putting out. I'm not the one really saying it, but just to preface it so everyone can jump in on this and have a real conversation around it, is you have these people with no experience whatsoever except being in college and what they've been told, maybe 1 or 2 years experience, calling you, trying to get you to buy their product. So I'm going to leave it there and just kind of throw it out there.
Yeah. Well, over the years, even way back when I used to, one of the things I would do is I would have a vendor come in if it was a good fit for me. And sometimes I was more proactive in that. I would find products and solutions and just always self-educating, think, hey, I'd bring them in. Or if they came in to talk to me and I decided to engage with that vendor, I ended up basically training their salespeople that they would send to me. So I'd sit them down and they'd try to tell me, hey, here's what we're doing. I'm like, no, listen, here's how we work and here's how we'll fit in. And if we're going to make this work, here's how it's going to work. And what I found is fast forward to today, we get these calls from these salespeople and they aren't listening, and it's obvious that they aren't trained to listen to what we're trying to say. And sometimes they even become a little combative with us on what we're trying to tell them we're looking for, how that might fit. And they're like, so I think if some of these folks spend some time educating those people, because you have to think about it, that's your front line. That's your front line. That's your first connection with us. If it's your first connection with us, a lot of times that might be your first connection with your customers too, and potential customers. So, I think people should give that a little more thought as far as how they're engaging and what they're having those people tell them, and maybe just have them gather a little more information initially than just, fishing for some, just changing lures and just keep going.
Pat, Tammie?
Yeah.
I know you both feel strong about this.
Yeah, I know we do. Yeah, let me go. I should say ladies first though. But anyway, I wanted to add before, part of the issues we have is past relationships. Having been in this business for over 40 years, 35 with my own business, everybody knows you. And, so you're getting these phone calls from Bob. Hey, Pat, it's Bob. Remember me? I sold you this stuff when I was at ABC company. And now I'm over here and we've got the best widget over here. So those guys might get a voice if they did a good job somewhere else. So they may get to the second phone call. Those young people that you were talking about calling up pretty much are emailing. I'll either not take the call, or if I get an email, I may send it to my technical people and say, is this something we're missing and that we'd like to look at before I even waste time having a conversation with them? So I leave that decision up to the technical people to tell me, yeah, this fits. We have a need there. We have a hole in our product suite, and go ahead and talk to them. And then I turn around and say, well, why don't you just talk to them? So anyway, so that's the two different calls we get. And, I do everything on relationships. We talked about that before. So if I've got a good relationship with you, you've been fair and honest and trusting, as we did business with another vendor or somewhere else, you've got a pretty good shot at getting at least a meeting or a conversation. Not saying I'm going to do business with you, but at least you got a chance. If you haven't, don't even bother calling. But some of them will call. Some of those will call anyway. They burnt you real bad at another vendor, and then they call up and say, "Oh, but I won't do that to you again. Thank you."
It wasn't me, it was the vendor.
I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I get that.
You are right when you talk about the difference between how long our organizations have been in business, right? So as an MSP, Merger Tree's been in business since 1999, but as an MSSP, we haven't been in business that long, and I have not been with the organization for that long anyway. So you're coming from a cleaner slate with me. I don't have those long-standing relationships with vendors. So no one's calling me to say, Tammie, remember 15 years ago when I sold you this, well, now I have something else to sell you. That's really not what's happening with me. So what's important to me when you're on the phone and when you make a phone call is your knowledge of your organization, your knowledge of my organization, and your confidence in what you're doing. So that's really the only problem that I have with inexperienced callers when they first come in. If they don't really have a knowledge of what they're selling, they don't really have a knowledge of their organization, I don't really have time to teach them, right? So hopefully the person that's calling really does understand what it is that they have to offer and how it fits into my business model. Then I don't have any problem listening to them, evaluating what they say, deciding whether or not I think that that's a fit for our organization, and setting up a call with my lead engineer to see whether or not this is something we can go forward with. And so it is, while relationships are extremely important, it's more about starting at go and building relationships and deciding whether or not I trust them. I'm generally a pretty good judge of character. So when I get someone on the phone, if it's not someone that I trust, not someone I respect at the end of the phone call, then I'm not going to be able to work with them.
Yeah, did you have more to say there, Pat?
I think it was a vendor calling up that wants to sell me their new product.
Oh, you have a call now.
Put them on the line.
Yeah, put him on the line. There you go. It'll be like a live TV show. We'll vet this guy out, right?
Yeah.
So, but Tammie, it's really interesting you brought that up, because as we were waiting to start the webinar today, we were talking about trade shows, and one of the things you liked about trade shows was getting the ability to meet the people and meet a person and talk to them and get a feel for them. And that's really what you're talking about here. When, you're an MSSP, and Merger Tree's an MSP, Pat, you do your services, Rick, you do yours. And that in and of itself is somewhat of an explanation of your business model, if you will. And it gives some idea to someone of how you make your money, and that vendor is persistent, Pat. That's at least one good thing from that standpoint. But so that tells some about your company, but it's simply not just enough to know you're an MSP or you're an MSSP or you're referring products or going into big data type of clients in there. You really also have to understand, what are the client sizes you're going after? What are the verticals that you're going after? What are the expertise that you have and similar products that you're selling and the types of services that you're interested in selling? You need to just know more than what you can just look at someone's website and say, oh, it's an MSP, let me give them a call. So and this comes down to aligning with priorities. So Tammie, we talked earlier, and you're really big about aligning with priorities. So let's kind of maybe start with you there, go to Rick and move forward, or just everyone jump in on that. I'm happy with that too, so.
Okay, so not only aligning with my priorities, but aligning with our business model, right? And we had talked a little bit about being reflective, understanding that what you're asking me to agree to has to be something that in general an organization would be capable of agreeing to. When we talked about, one primary thing is invoicing and what your payment model is, and aligning that to how an MSP or an MSSP runs a payment model. So my explanation for that, and something that I feedback at vendors, is, so do you pay your rent 12 months at a time? Do you come in and make one payment each year and say, this is what you're paying, we expect to occupy this same space for the remainder of the year, so we're going to pay this upfront for the next 12 months. Do you pay your electric bill that way? Do you pay the vendors that you work with in that method? Well, neither is that how I bill my clients. So it is very difficult for me as an organization to pay you in one lump sum rather than to pay you each month the way we bill our clients. I understand that it's easier for you, but it's not easier for me, and it wouldn't be easier for you in the other directions. You've got to take that into consideration when you develop marketing materials and you're telling me, I'm coming into this as a partner. I'm going to be your partner. We've got all these marketing materials. It's awesome. We've got all this stuff for you to use. You can do this. This is great. We're going to help you grow. And on the front end, that's what they've got to say, and they're all enthusiastic about it. But as soon as you've signed that vendor agreement, and then all those marketing materials are in a bucket somewhere, but they're really not usable, right? Because most MSPs don't have a marketing department. So if you're giving me blank marketing materials that you've got the content developed for, but now I need to download it, I need to try and add my own logo to it, who's doing that in principal-led sales in an MSP, right? Who? The president of the organization, the principal-led sales, who's handling all of that? If you're not making it usable for me, that's something that I can actually promote and attach to my website, that I can actually send to my organization or send out to my clients, then you're really not doing that. You're really not rowing in the same boat. All you're doing is putting things in my boat and telling me to row harder. So it's important that, I'm sorry, it's important that principles are aligned. It's important that business models are aligned. It's important that you are putting energy into pulling forward with me, because you can't succeed as a vendor if your clients aren't succeeding, the same as we can't succeed as a provider if our clients aren't succeeding. So we see it from both directions.
Mhm.
Tammie, I'd buy from you, Tammie. When you went in that speech about if you're the vendor, that thing, that's what I look for when I see a vendor. If they get that enthusiasm and they understand what they're talking about, that's who I buy from.
Well, Pat, I'd be happy to provide your cybersecurity for you.
You have to talk to my technical team.
Yeah.
And don't forget the little loop right here. I need something in between, right? Rick, you wanted to jump in on this?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is just the whole, I think about just the customers and the vendors and everybody, and even, MSPs and MSSPs and those folks. And it's, you guys are ingrained, just like in a customer, when they get ingrained with an MSP, it's hard to change, right? And same thing with you guys, with everybody else, when you get ingrained with a vendor, it's hard to change, because you've invested all the money and all the research and all the back end and all the people and training and all those kind of things to hold it. So I think on my side, even from the sales and marketing side, looking at customers, is how do you get them to shift and how do you get them to change? And I think maybe just some suggestions for some of these folks out there as far as aligning and leaning on what Tammie was saying is on the marketing support. So if they identify some of those areas that we're weak in, that we could use that assistance, maybe they target their efforts to that side of the business to try to open the door, to try to get in with us and engage with us, versus just, basically the shotgun approach and throwing it all out there.
Yeah, I think, as in what you're saying there too, in the alignment and those types of pieces, what's the time frame has to be also truly understood. So if you're going to bring a service into a managed service provider, one, maybe it's a rip and replace type thing. It's going to happen over time, but there's decision-making times that you make as an organization, Pat or Tammie or Rick, on how fast you can get to market. And a lot of times there's a mismatch of understandings of, okay, so if I sign a new managed service provider, it's going to take 3 months in that recruitment process to really get them to a point that they may get one client on as a test or something like that, or they're doing a test. 3 to 6 months, you might bring on 1 or 2 clients, and you're making sure you can manage it and work with it. 6 to 9 months or so, you're working on maybe some sales materials for it, and you really don't start doing a lot of sales until like 12 months in. But they don't understand the process or understand why you're going through it. And I think that's a misalignment. I don't know, Pat, Tammie, and Rick, you're the ones running those companies, but when I've sold to companies like yours, that's been my experience, is that it takes time to ramp, and especially if you're going to replace other products. If I'm not incentivizing you, even though you want to make those changes, say you're bringing on a new backup system or you're bringing in something like that, it takes time and money to do those things.
I'll take a shot at that, because it's something that I think that we do very, very well at our company. We try to make sure, as Tammie said, that the vendor understands what we do and why we do it and all that stuff. We make sure we have a presentation that we make them watch. And part of that presentation basically says to them, it's going to cost us X amount of dollars to get up to speed on your product before we really sell anything. But during that time, I've got engineers going to classes. They may be flying to California to go there. And, I'm paying all these expenses, and forget just the expenses. Now he's not out in the field billable at $2.25 or $2.50 an hour or whatever we're billing. So, it's a major cost, and we lay that out for them. We say, here's the cost that we have. So don't even talk to me about signing me up as a silver vendor or a gold vendor. We want to be at the top part. Give us 6 months. If we're not starting to ramp up, fine. But I can't make that investment and then just keep getting deals taken away. And then they tell you, well, we do have price protection. Well, you know my feelings on price protection to some extent. And I'm not going to get into that because you'd need another show. But
we may do that one.
Anyway,
Look, they're hard costs. Go ahead, Pat, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you jump in.
Sure. There are hard costs involved. All the ones that you're listing, there are soft costs involved too. So there is a reputational cost, right?
It's not me. I'm
Sorry,
taking it
Tammie.
off the hook. I'm going to go take the phone off the hook.
Sorry, Tammie, you were talking.
He actually has a phone in the wall. I'm going to fall off my chair.
Yes, his landline. I got it right here. I keep calling him. You know. Sorry, I know we're trying to be really smooth. Yeah.
That's okay.
Back to you,
So
Tammie.
one of the things that we sell and that we promote and that we have to have is stability, right? Our clients are trusting us. We are a trusted resource. We have to, as leaders, stand up and be stable. So every time we change, right, there's some threat to that. Now, when it's promoted correctly, then we're saying this is, you know, this is scaling up, this is doing a better thing, this is offering a better service. However, there's a limit to how much change we can have. So I can't change providers, change vendors today and change them again in 3 months and change them again in 3 months, because even though I'm not promoting the name of each one of those specific organizations, I'm promoting the service. That change is still felt by my clients. So there's a soft cost, a reputational cost to changing. So when I commit to a vendor relationship, I'm committed to a vendor relationship, not just because of what it cost me in time and what it cost me in resources, but because of what it cost in my reputation to change. So there are a lot of things that go into that vendor relationship that make it important to me to select correct on the front end and then to support that going through. But don't sign a deal with me and disappear. So I think a lot of our vendors have very good intentions, and they have some good material developed, and they have a good service developed, but where that sometimes falls through is on delivery. So make certain that I have an account manager who's actually managing my account and delivering what it is that you have to offer, the whole breadth of your package, not just your focused service, into my account, and seeing to it that those things actually get activated.
Exactly, and I think that's part of it too, is when that, yeah, just aligning, and part of that starts that first phone call. When I call you for the first time and I can say, hey, Tammie, I said, you know, I understand you're selling into these particular markets, you're doing managed security services, and you're really into the healthcare market, and here's how my product helps you there. Here's what we can do for the company. Here's how we make money together, and really go into those types of pieces. And I'm demonstrating to you that I have knowledge about not just your domain and the areas there, but I also have taken the time to really understand more about your company and how we can work together and make money upfront and get that boom, boom, boom. That's what you want to hear when someone calls you, and they're confident about it, how they can do that. At least that's what I'm thinking. So, and I see everyone's head going, yeah, call me like that, right? But
Right.
how do you do that? And go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I didn't know if Jim was, or Rick was waiting to say something. I didn't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's about loyalty, you know, what Tammie's talking about in my mind. And it's two ways, you know, you're looking, if you're going to make an investment, and that's what you're doing when you sign up with a new vendor, you're making an investment. And when you make that investment, you expect to get loyalty in return. For the most part, in 35 years, I have to admit that we've had very good loyalty from most of our vendors. As Laura knows from our last conversation online, we did have one vendor that really hurt us real bad about 2 years ago now. And we've had to recover from that because it was our largest vendor, and we were very loyal. We turned down other vendors because we didn't want to upset our core vendor. So, so that loyalty is very, very important. We don't like to have, you know, we sell a lot of product besides services. So we don't want to have 3 VPNs, 3, you know, IDSs, 3, whatever it is. So, you know, we like to have one that really does a great job, and then maybe a backup. Now it gets harder because as these vendors start to buy each other, all of a sudden your real core vendor that you were selling XYZ widget for buys Joe's Appliances, and Joe's Appliances competes with another core vendor of yours. And, so that's when it gets a little difficult to, with the loyalty thing. And we typically have to make a phone call or something and say, hey, we have no choice. These other guys we're doing millions of dollars of business with, and now they bought another wireless company and they want us to sell that wireless company. We're going to still lead with yours because we still think it's the best, or we wouldn't have been selling it. But, we've got to at least take a look at what they're doing here. So it's, again, like I said before, relationships are so key to me. We try to do our best to meet with the executives of all the companies we deal with. Either my son or myself sits pretty much on an advisory board for almost all of them. And we try to break it up. If it's technical, I let him do it because I have no idea what most of this new stuff does. Maybe if we were talking switches and routers back in 1987, I might have been able to do it. But, and I'll do the stuff about the channel, how to make your channel better and how to make it work. And I'm very vocal, so even though I say a lot of things they don't agree with, they like keeping me there because they need to hear that.
They do need to hear that. And that's what this whole series that we do here at SaaSMAX is all about. I do want to take out 60 seconds or so for my own little commercial, since we're hosting this, and a little bit about what SaaSMAX does. You can see on there about this has been up, and I'm sure you've read this, but when you look at the challenging times we're in, or any times really when it comes down to in the digital transformation he's going through, channel teams really need more. You need smarter systems, you need smarter tools and solutions that are going to support the things that we're talking about here. So that support, and accelerate your channel reseller growth, getting faster times to revenue. That's what we're all about. We're here to help you with smarter tools, smarter solutions, driving you to meet your best profile partners. So we like to call those your reseller partner ideal reseller partner profiles. I'm kind of messing this up here today, but so we look at your ideal partner reseller profiles, and that's the ones you want. So when you look at teams and you look at things like football teams and those types of things, they got all these combines they do, they got all these scoring pieces they do, personality tests, and they do all this statistics before they make that selection. And that's what we should be doing here in the channel today. Which one of these partners do you want to sign up? So, instead of going out and casting a wide net like everyone's talking about here and making thousands and thousands of phone calls and reaching out, hey, I bought this list of MSPs, there's 10,000 on it. Let me get my digital marketing machine going. Let me get my LinkedIn marketing machine going. And let's just pound these people with phone calls so we get to the one that wants to work with us. I've done that before. I've recruited channel of 12,500 managed service providers before. And that was before we had all these pieces. And it's a lot of work. I would much rather, and that's why I came here to SaaSMAX in the first place, is the ability for us to hone in on a reseller partner profile and go after those and help you identify those. So that's what we do as an organization. We'd like to prove that to you. And on the previous slide there, we were talking about every Thursday in April to really get everyone on the right track and understand what their ideal reseller profile is. We're holding a workshop every Thursday. So please come by, please sign up for those. If you come to one of our workshops, we got some special offers there that you're going to get and receive, and even get a few of your own for no charge just by attending and learning the workshop. You're going to come out of that with one of your ideal partner reseller personas that you can take and use whatever systems you want. But we're going to give you 10 for free as well, so you can go out and really market properly and really hyper target those types of solution providers and call them up knowing that, hey, Rick, I know that you're selling to these people. I know that you're using these types of products. Here's how I fit into it. Let's do some business. Here's how I can help you out and make money. And I'm guaranteed you're going to get and recruit more of those that are your best resellers, as you're going to speed that time to them being productive with you, them picking up your product, them coming on board, and getting time that they're actually producing revenue together. That's what we're all about. So now we have some questions back to our audience. Laura, do we have some questions out there that we want to ask that the audience wants to know about?
We have a number of questions that the audience has asked us, and I'd like to tell everybody that since we are approaching the time that we've allotted for the webinar. If for some reason we totally care about your time and value your time, we will stay on to answer the questions that are here, and we will send out the recording to you in case you do need to drop off. So let's get started right in. And do you have experience where a vendor tries to turn you into a salesperson for their company, and how do you handle that?
I tell them to get in line.
Okay. I mean, we guys all kind of talked about it. Can you expand on what you feel about that and how you would handle that?
It all depends, as Pat, it all depends on how they approach it. If they come to you and they really have a good solution and it's really something you believe in after you see it, and you've now decided we need this solution to add to our portfolio, then of course we'll become a salesperson. That's what we do. I mean, so we're going to go out there and we're going to learn as much as we can about the product, or the service, whatever it is, so that when we go out, and we don't do like those 19-year-olds that are calling you up and just reading from a script. We want to make sure we tell them about a real solution and how it will impact their company and solve problems that they may have. I said it before, we're problem solvers. That's our job. Our job is to find out what customers are dealing with and where their issues are, and see if we can solve it. If we can't, we tell them, hey, I know another guy that does, call him. So that's about what I have.
Okay.
So
do you have,
for me,
yes, please, Tammie.
for me, if you have provided a service that has been valuable to my organization, if you've stood by me and my company, and you have been beneficial and we've been working together, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever stepping up to help you. So if by become a salesperson for you, you mean you would like me to speak and you would like me to promote your organization by explaining how it's been beneficial to mine, look, I am all enthusiasm and I'm there for you all day long. But if you're not there for me, and you're asking me then just to expand your sales team and sell a product that hasn't done anything for me, then obviously that's not going to work. So you provide the service to me, I see value in that service. I have no problem stepping into a conference call and explaining to someone else how you've helped my organization.
That's a perfect seg to the next question. From your experience, what's the best way to build rapport to earn your business? Rick, you look like you had wanted to say something just before I asked that question. So
I think it's that whole relationship piece too, right? So it's a two-way street, and it's like a relationship, right? It takes time. There's ups and there's downs and there's ebbs and flows, and and on each side. And I think everybody just has to understand and work towards that. And the whole piece of the provider ourselves, or of the reseller, the partner MSP, I think on some of those sides, from that, we need to be a little more proactive, I think, in some cases, of how we leverage our partners, the vendors, all their capabilities and what they have, and I'm just sort of jump the other side and not just sit back and say, what do you have, but us to say, really take a look at their account, which I'm sure a lot of these folks do. They're here on the panel, and look at what they're doing. And as far as the customer, and how can we leverage their marketing folks? How can we leverage and have them help us promote ourselves and their products? So it's it's sort of running that parallel marketing. So we're going to drive their activity and drive their business and work with them to do some webinars or whatever the events might be. But also on that same note, on the dominant side of our mind is like, well, yeah, if we can get all these people here, then maybe we can persuade them into buying something else too. And just because you're in front of people. So it's a two-way street, but they use us, we use them, we all get along and stick with the relationship.
I want to take one more shot at it too. One other part. One of the questions we ask and that we need to make sure of is, tell me about your product, yes, but I want to know how I add services around it, because I don't need another box. I don't need to be selling. I want to know that there's a way for me to make money with our professional services, whether it's designing, implementing, training, whatever there is that we can do, that it puts more dollars to the bottom line for us, because that's what differentiates us between these people that have these 19 and 20-year-olds making those phone calls. They're calling us to actually go out and install some of the stuff for some of those companies. So some of our competitors that we hate actually are some of our customers.
And I think that's, Tam, I'm not taking anything away from you there, but what you just said, Pat, is key. Like when I'm talking to channel managers and channel teams, and one of the things when I talk to them about explain to your prospects and explain to your partners how you're going to make money. And it's not about just making money from a referral fee or from selling the product or a commission or whatever it is. It's about what is that business model and the entire business model of, okay, you're going to make some money on the product this way, but other partners are providing these services and we drag these products and you can sell these companion products along with it. Show the entirety of that financial model. You want the whole piece, right? And Tammie, if you wanted to jump on that, I just wanted to get that because I think it's very key. And what I always teach people is show me the entire model. Don't just show me the money, but show me the entire business model, where else it's going to benefit my organization and drive revenue.
So that makes complete sense, and that's really very fair. And both something that Pat said and something that Rick said are true to me and kind of ring true. This isn't all about the vendor. So part of it is my responsibility in leading my organization to get value from the vendor where that value is available. It can't be all of them rowing in the boat either. I can't just be an MSP that they're trying to pull along or an MSSP that they're trying to pull along. And I do understand that. And sometimes I'm better at it than other days, right? But that's fair across the board. If you can come to me with a package that is more than a singular service, and you can explain to me or show me, model for me, illustrate for me how that package fits into my service delivery and what the collateral effects are on the other services that I'm delivering, right? Then I can get a more holistic picture of how your service can complement my organization and can help my organization move forward. If I have a more holistic picture, it allows me to align my resources more appropriately. So I can look in my organization and say, okay, in order to get full benefit from this new vendor relationship, these are the resources that we need to have in place. And this is my account manager who's going to help me manage those resources in order to pull full value out of that vendor relationship. So I agree on both sides. It does have to come from our organization as well. And we really do need to understand what the whole picture is in order to get our organization on board.
Great. We have several more questions that are outstanding out there. We have passed the 45 minutes designated for the webinar. If anybody needs to drop off, just please know that we will answer your questions in here. Let's everybody has so much great content.
Let's take one more question, Laura, and then we'll have to wrap it and get back to people on other questions. So
okay, and let's figure one out here because there are so many good questions. And Pat, you got a thank you from one of the vendor partners on here for being such a great partner to them for your company culture, leadership, sales, and deep technical SE bench. So that's from Brent over at Extreme. So thank you for that. We always like to hear that as well. Here's the question that, say that again?
You didn't charge me much for that.
What are some resources for finding the right reseller to partner with based on products, synergistic products in our target market? What's the best way for us to make sure we're getting the right information for you? I don't know if that's a Clint question or each of you. I think we've kind of been talking about it.
Question on our end on that particular piece, and it can be difficult to find that data. And quite frankly, when I was growing channels all the way up until 2014 or so, a lot of that data was very difficult to get, and it still is today. We have made a lot of it available, and there are a few other sources, but I'm happy to talk more with you and join one of our workshops, and you'll find out really quickly. And there are other sources. I don't mind providing some of that out there, but yeah, we can check it out.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in on just real quick on Clint's comment, and just knowing the direction where those guys are heading and what they're doing, and the whole thing with data and digital transformation, they're doing a good job as heading down that path of leveraging data to even in your own data to help target and focus in and make your jobs a lot easier. So I'm gonna add to Clint's plug on SaaSMAX and what those guys are doing. So it's definitely worth the time looking into this, your
Thanks,
upcoming seminars, webinars. Yeah.
All right. And we'll get answers to other questions to people, but I think this one's really important. Which way do you prefer to be reached out? Really quick, simple answer: email, phone, or another method?
I prefer phone. You know, we get too many emails and it's just going to get lost in the shuffle. And if it's
Okay.
important, let me straight, if it's important, make a phone call. If it's not important, send an email and it'll go in the junk box and we won't even worry about it. But
Okay.
I want a phone call.
Okay. Rick?
It's going to be a little bit of everything, right? So it could be phone call, it could be an email, it could be LinkedIn, it could be, you know, just if you have connections in LinkedIn or some other way to come in to make introductions, it's just a little bit of everything. Yeah, I'm pretty flexible as far as meeting people.
Tammie?
So if you send me an email, I'm probably not going to see it unless you've got a remarkably good design team that really grabs my attention from the word go. I'm probably not going to see it. You have to call me. Now, when you call me, if I have that conversation and believe that there is some potential to continue the conversation, I'm going to ask you to send me an email. And then I'm looking for your email and I'm going to open it and read it. But it really has to start with that phone call.
Okay, great. Clint, why don't you close out?
Yeah, great. I want to thank everyone everyone that attended. Thank you very much for attending and taking your time to spend with us. Thank you. Special thanks out to Pat and Tammie and Rick for joining me here today. I really enjoyed reconnecting as always, and just all the great advice that you're giving to the vendors and the way that you talked, and very professional in the way you do it. And of course, Laura, you know, without her, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much, Laura, for again, remember, this is all relationships, folks. It's a very relationship-based business. And Laura was an MSP partner of mine for a long time, and then friends, and now we're working together here. And, you know, Rick, I've known for a very, it's just, I can't express enough that stand behind yourself when you're doing business, and especially in the channel, because they will remember you in a good and a bad way. So it's very relationship-driven. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
All right, and please fill out the short survey right after the webinar closes. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Appreciate it. Bye now.
I know.
Bye-bye.
Bye.